All right, we're live. Hi, everybody. Keith Nesso with Tarot by Keith here. So this is the third video in my teaching series about my interpretation of the Marseille Tarot, which again is the oldest first edition tarot deck. No one knows the origin of the tarot. The earliest it can be traced back to is the year 1471, and it goes way before that. In my personal opinion, I have no proof or documentation of this, but I believe it was either handed down from previous civilizations or channeled through the Essene Mystery School, which is where Jesus and Mary Magdalene went to school outside of Jerusalem. So I believe there's a strong connection to the Marseille Tarot and Kabbalah, and that resonates with the Torah. And I think that this tarot deck is the same information encoded in pictures and symbols and colors that is in the traditional Torah written in ancient Hebrew. So today we're discussing color, the vibration of color and the messages of color in the cards. Yesterday we went through the numerology. So all of these kind of link in. So the more you study the cards and start to learn them, the more you start to understand. So I thought Temperance, which is Major Arcanum 14, would be a nice card to present the colors with. It has almost all of them there. We talked a little bit in the numerology of how odd numbers represent red masculine energy. They're all odd and they're all on the active side of the card facing toward the future. And the feminine dark blue intuitive passive energy is the even numbers, right? So that's the red and the blue. So if you look at Temperance, you can see how clearly she's divided with the red and the blue. So the blue is that feminine, divine feminine, intuitive energy, and the red energy, the masculine energy, is on the other side of the card. So this clearly depicts that separation, and it's important to remember that we all have this dualism within us. We all have masculine and feminine qualities within us. And the first goal is to kind of identify all of those, because there's pieces and aspects of ourselves that we tend to neglect or shun or put aside and don't want to look at. And the first thing you have to do is really take the flashlight into the dark corners of your psyche and identify all the pieces of who you are, because if you don't find all the pieces of the puzzle, how are you going to then integrate them? So integration is key. And the primary colors, we've covered red and blue. The other primary color is yellow. And yellow in the Marseille Tarot represents logic, intellect, and idea. So it's also, if you get into chakra colors, the red is the root chakra and the blue is the throat chakra, right? And yellow would be the solar plexus. So those are the primary colors. And as you raise up from red all the way up to purple, the vibrations raise. So it's important to remember that each color represents a vibration. And this goes back into the numerology thing, the 369 vortex math in the earlier video. When you get to the ancient solfeggio tones, those represent a vibration that starts with sound. Now, in music, when you double a frequency, you're up one perfect octave. And if you go 40 octaves up, if you take a sound frequency and go up 40 octaves, you're in the nanometer spectrum, which is where color lives. So sound and color are intrinsically linked. Every color has a sound and every sound has a color. Some of them we can't perceive in the limited band of the spectrum which visible light exists in. So primary colors: red, divine masculine active energy; blue, divine feminine passive intuition. Now you can see with Temperance here, she's balancing. She's taking these two pitchers of water, which are yellow. So it's her learning about each side of the spectrum, the red and the blue, the pieces of herself. And what's flowing in between these two cups is light blue water. And light blue, or azure, is linked into spiritualization. It's your spiritual energy, whatever that means to you. Religion is not a part of this, though it can be. It's how you perceive divine or spirit, source, whatever you want to call it. And you can see her wings that she sprouted also are light blue. So she's really gained her ability to fly. And she's looking back at the past toward the ground. So this is looking at what she's learned on her path to get her to this point. And if you can see, also her eyeballs are yellow. So she's seeing with what she's learned. And now, after the red and the blue and the yellow, the primary colors, you get into the secondary colors. So let's talk about green for a minute. Green is the color of the heart chakra. It's right in the middle of the card, right in the middle of the chakra system. Green represents rebirth. It's the leaves on the trees in the spring after they've been dormant. It's the emergence of the higher self. And it's also a blend of the yellow and the blue. So yellow being logic, intellect, and idea, and blue being the throat chakra, maybe when you've identified what your will is and stated what your will is from your yellow solar plexus and begin to speak about it, is when you mix the blue and the yellow, which creates this rebirth, this heart activation, right? There's a balance in between the lower and upper three chakras there, and they all connect at the 0 point in the heart. This is where, that's our connection to divine, is through the heart. So seeing this green in the card, especially right there around her solar plexus, and look at that right there on her throat. So that kind of links into what I just said. There's this blend of the solar plexus and the throat going on, making this blue-yellow combination, which is green, which means there's a new part of you coming forth. It's emerging. Another secondary color is orange, and we see she's standing on orange ground. So orange means fulfillment to me, right? And it's a blend of this red and yellow. So if yellow is logic, intellect, and idea, what you've learned, the knowledge you've accumulated, and red is divine masculine energy, when you put what you've learned into action is when you mix the red and the yellow, which is orange. And that provides the fulfillment. And orange is heavily tied into the cups energy, which is water, which resembles emotions. So this emotional fulfillment comes from accumulating knowledge, going on the search, and then integrating it and putting it into action, actually living it, right? So she's standing on all this fulfillment. Another secondary color. We have the green, which is rebirth. We have the orange, which is fulfillment. Now, the purple color, or the color purple, is the color of the crown chakra. And it's the highest vibrational color within the spectrum. And it's the master color of the tarot, and there's very little of it in the Marseille Tarot. You don't see much of it. It represents, to me, inner unification. It's after you've pulled out all the aspects of yourself, all the red shit, all the blue stuff, and you've identified you're no longer neglecting pieces of yourself, but you're really looking at yourself in a sober way. And you begin to integrate those. You begin to play with those red and blue energies and let them coalesce. That's when you mix the red and the blue and you get some purple. So as we look at the card of Temperance, Major Arcanum 14, which is the energy of 4, just on the upper octave, it's gone through the Wheel of Fortune, which is the badge of the 10, represented by the X. Remember in numerology yesterday, we talked about 4 representing stability, application, and formation. So this is her stabilizing what she's learned. She's gone all the way through the 1 through the 13. And Major Arcanum 13 is commonly known as the death card. It doesn't have a name in the Marseille Tarot. It's just Arcanum 13. And that represents massive transformation. It's the ego death. So this is her just after the ego death, looking with yellow, knowledgeable eyes at what she's gone through and tempering the spiritual energy between the red and the blue. And what I love is that her purple foot is just sticking out of her dress, leaning to the future side. So as she's looking down at the past, she's stepping forward with her unified self. Her purple foot is just beginning to peek out. She's not flying yet, but she's grown her wings, and flight will take place. So the only other colors in the tarot, in the Marseille Tarot, are black and white, which is that duality, the yin-yang thing, the binary element, the dualistic nature of our universe. So we think of white light, think of the cover of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, where you have the prism with the white light coming in and then it breaks out into the 7 rays, right? White light resembles purity. it's unity. And white light contains within it all the frequencies of all the other colors. So when you see white in the tarot, there's no white in this card, but others do. And white resembles purity in the tarot. Black, on the other hand, is ego. It's the soil. It's the compost that we give the earth in order to nourish it. It's what we let go of and shed in order to have more growth come out of it. So when you see black, that's what that represents. And I forgot the flesh color. And flesh represents just being in the physical. It's earthbound energies. It ties into the pentacles. So earthbound energy. So that's my take on the color spectrum. And when I get into showing you guys how to put the cards together and actually do readings, remember that the numbers serve as a clue, as a handle, and the colors will serve as a clue as well. And then how the cards relate to each other will begin to tell a story. And this is just my interpretation of this one specific deck. There's so many tarot decks out there now, but there is something about this being the very first one. And this is my hand-painted, hand-drawn Marseille deck. I keep making more and more decks. I'm on my 5th one right now. But there you go. So I'm going to keep this up. I hope you like what I'm doing, and I'll post some more readings soon. And so that's the lesson in color and vibration and how it relates to the Marseille Tarot. Be well out there. Much love.